All right, then. We are now live for what is the mid-year stream of Gamers Talking. For those who don't know, when we started this back up, we had a big stream for each one when we got back in the momentum of things. But previously, because we had so much news to talk about in previous streams, we sort of split it in two so that we didn't end up with like a 3-hour plus stream at the end of the year. So that's why we're doing this one now. And of course, as usual, I'm joined by Peter.
Hello.
And of course, Wombat.
Good morning.
To either celebrate, lament, or just plain take the absolute piss out of a lot of the stuff that's happened in the gaming world this year. It's always fun to do this, especially when I've got two PC gamers with me, because a lot of this stuff revolves around consoles, and you guys probably just sit and laugh from your unique little platform, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. Where are we? We get the first one going, wherever the bloody hell is. Ah, yes. So the Nintendo Switch 2 has launched, and this was the price list that was reported by GameStop. As you can see, it's quite expensive. What was your thoughts on this? Because I looked at this in particular, Mario Kart World being $80, and just thought, what the hell?
Again, I looked at that, and again, I'm not a Nintendo person. Like, I used to respect Nintendo because they had their niche and their games, were their own thing. But yeah, it turns out that the Mario Kart World is just a reskin of the last Mario Kart. It's not even a new game.
I've heard this.
So I'm like, you're paying $80 for a reskin. Yeah, again, this is just the trend amongst consoles overall. It's just no new real new games. It's reskins and re-releases, and console prices are getting just keep going up now. Excuse me. From a hardware point of view, there's no excuse for this because the actual hardware to make the Switch, the cost of that is going down. So this is just a cash grab on Nintendo more than anything. It's just essentially, it's to Switch with slightly updated hardware. And a whole heap of the games that were coming out on Switch are available on PC anyway. So, why not just get a Steam Deck?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I will give them their dues. They've done well with the sales because let's see, is it this one? Yeah, here we go. Sold over 3.5 million units in its first 4 days, becoming the fastest selling Nintendo hardware ever globally. Okay, I mean, I give them their dues for that, but if all you've got for it is one unique game, if you want to call it that, and the tech demo, as I forget what its proper name is, which they were selling for $10, I was not thrilled by this.
A lot of it is FOMO, just like PlayStation 5 was a huge run on FOMO.
Yeah,
and like looking it up
for those listening. For those listening, FOMO means fear of missing out.
And looking it up for if you were to buy it in Australia, just for the console alone, it's $700.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that because I have
$700, dude.
I have the link to the this is the Amazon UK page. So this is the Nintendo Switch without a game. It's obviously £709, which I find absolutely stunning. And obviously this makes me laugh. For those who can't afford it in one pop, you've got payment plans available. And if you go to that, Barclays, and they make interest on it.
Of course they do. That's how all these things work. People are like, oh, I'll just pay later. And like, and end up paying nearly 3 times as much once you include all the fees and everything the person who you buy it through adds on.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, obviously we mentioned about reskinned games. This is what's available for it on Amazon website. So first of all, you've got Cyberpunk 2077, the Ultimate Edition. That's essentially an updated game. Pokemon Legends, another updated game. Hogwarts Legacy, Donkey Kong Bonanza is a new one, of course. Hitman, Carry on down. Legend of Zelda. The 2 Point Campus. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Sonic X Shadow. Yeah, it's
almost all those, everything apart from Nintendo exclusives are available on PC and console. So why, again, it's buy Steam Deck. Right?
They're likely
comes
cheaper.
Down to it's just like buy
they're likely cheaper on PC and the other consoles because they're already pre-existing games.
Mm-hmm. But of course, it's not just the only thing. People have talked about the difficulty with the previous Nintendo controllers and the drifting problem that they have with it, and the same thing happens with the controllers on this one. There was even a guy.
Yeah, because they're exactly the same. When I said that they're exactly the same component, right? So they haven't even fixed up the drift issue between the models. They've just gone, this is fine, and they're using the same component. All right. So just for context, right? I just happened to look up the Steam page for the Steam Deck. Right, Steam Deck actually comes in 3 variants. Again, which is just the memory space, right? So processing wise, etc., they're fine. So it's just the hard disk space on them. The cheapest version of the Steam Deck is $650 Australian, and that's a 256. The middle of the road one is $900 Australian, and the high end, the 1 terabyte one, is 1,050 Australian. So it's still cheaper than the Switch 2 with more games, right? So I could get a top-end Steam Deck for 1,050. It's still cheaper than a Switch 2, and I have more games. Right? Most of those games, anything that's not a Nintendo exclusive IP, I have on Steam Deck already. Right? Because again, just buy a Steam Deck if you want a handheld thing to play games.
Yeah, because it's also been highlighted in the past the difficulties of which people were faced trying to get a new set of controllers from Nintendo. When reporting this issue, which is well known, by the way. Nintendo make the process so difficult and so hard to find that the average consumer just gives up and buys a brand new set of controllers, which I think is,
Stop giving Nintendo money. You are rewarding bad behavior.
And I mean,
but it's Nintendo. I'm a Nintendo fan. I have to have other things all the time because I love Nintendo.
This is why I call people like that nintoddlers, because again, it's
and to the point, it's like you can be a fan of something, but have a degree of integrity where you basically go, okay, no, I'm not doing this because you're clearly just ripping me off now. You're not rewarding me for being a loyal fan. You're just ripping me off.
I mean, I'll finish it on these 2 things before we move on. But the first thing was watching my wife's reaction to this, because she was quite keen on the whole thing when it was first announced. But then as we were watching videos on what was going to be happening with the system, such as, for example, the games are basically just download codes on a card, and the pricing and all the other stuff, it was just interesting watching her enthusiasm fade throughout the week until she said, yeah, we're not getting one of those.
And the thing, people going, but like games cost whoever it was that dipshit was, that's like, games cost us like 80, like 60s odd bucks, whatever it was back in the 90s. And like, but back in the 90s, you actually got a physical thing, and usually a cartridge, the era he was talking about, which were very expensive to produce. You got it in an actual case to keep it in, and you got a printed manual to go with it.
Well, and that's the point, is you had physical media costs, whereas now it's all online. I'm like, no, this cost of the bandwidth in the server farm. And my argument for that is also, well, the game was something that had been developed from scratch. Asking 80 odd bucks for a reskin is just, no, that's a cash grab, right? Because 99% of the work has already been done. That's just a reskin. They're literally just updating the textures, so there's subtle work into it.
At least back then, you were paying for the actual, labor that went into making it a new game, all the stuff that went into its packaging and its cartridges, and actually getting it to a physical store to buy it from.
Yeah. So the other thing I'll finish on was literally this morning, after we finished talking, actually, a video got mentioned. Suggested to me on my feed by this lady called Background NPC. I'd never heard of her before, but it was a video lamenting her changed feelings on Nintendo, because she grew up a major fan, but then one of the things she saw over the years have just massively put her off. And first of all, she compared Nintendo to being the Disney of the video game world, with the way they are regarding litigiousness against various people who cross them.
We'll get onto the Palworld lawsuit, because I have thoughts.
That is mentioned in the video, but this was the part that interested me. She said, share any stories you've got with Nintendo in the comments, as YouTubers tend to do. And I took a browse, and this one person commented that she goes, yeah, I'm a nurse that used to work in pediatrics. There was a company in the hospital I worked at regularly partnered with that would make modified controllers and games consoles for kids with disabilities to play them properly. I'll summarize parts of it, that the controllers had larger buttons and the consoles could be slowed down so the kids could play without feeling that they couldn't play, if you know what I mean. So it gets to the last part. PlayStation and Xbox teams loved these guys and supported them. They even donated a few consoles for the kids and were happy to do so, unworried about the modification done to their consoles. Nintendo, however, weren't so generous. They sued the ever-living hell out of the company after word got back to them that someone was modifying Switches and Switch controllers. In order to prevent hefty fines, the company had to issue an apology and cease working with all Nintendo products. They cared more about protecting IP than the disabled kids that were fans of their games. They cared more about suing a company that barely made enough money to pay their employees and mostly subsisted off donations and donated consoles. And they did about making children happy. Screw Nintendo. I thought, wow, that's a pretty horrible fucking story.
Again, that's anyone who knows anything about Nintendo. That is their MO. As again, this ties us just into the Palworld thing. So Palworld came up with a better monster capture game than Nintendo has, because Nintendo just gets, I forget the company that
Game Freak.
Nintendo gets to make their Game Freak to make Pokemon games, and Game Freak's just been like shoveling out trash for the last few releases. And then the team behind Palworld, who were real fans of that genre, and just to be clear, Nintendo did not invent the monster capture genre. That was a thing that existed before them. Came out with a game that was way better than Nintendo ever came out with, and Nintendo's first response was to start suing them and doing it in the most scummy way possible. So Nintendo, basically, for anyone who hasn't followed the story, Nintendo looked at Palworld and went, what mechanics can we patent? They then filed the patents. This is after Palworld's come out, filed a bunch of patents on gameplay mechanics, and then used those patents to sue Pocket Pair, the company that makes Palworld, right? From a patented legal point of view, this is horrifying, right? So you can come out with a successful game, and then Nintendo can decide, we don't like that. That's going to compete with one of ours. We're just going to invent a bunch of patents, and then we're going to use those to sue you, right? It's more or less just weaponizing the patent system in Japan. Now, I'm hoping that the Pocket Pair manages to sort of successfully contest this and have those patents invalidated, because they are what they call prior art. If anyone who wants to go down the bloody rabbit hole of patent law, go nuts. But essentially, if it already exists, you shouldn't be able to patent it. But the way that the Japanese patent law works is you pretty much have to go through and invalidate that patent, because Japan still has the first to file rule, which is just silly. But the fact is, those patents should never have been granted in the first place, and then they're just being weaponized. And Nintendo's done this. They've done this with several patents against Pocket Pair now. So Pocket Pair has actually had to patch Palworld, and you see it in the patch notes saying, we're having to change this to get around this bloody lawsuit. It's not because we wanted to. And it's really stupid stuff, like throwing a ball at a monster to catch it. Yeah, it's game mechanic, it's software mechanic stuff that should not be patentable. So it's okay. So my little rant. So no, Nintendo can die in a fire. I really have no time for them.
I don't like seeing stuff like that.
And add to that the whole bullshit that this didn't come out of nowhere. These guys that made the game had been showing their progress, showing what they were at, and testing waters with people with their ideas for about 4 years before it hit the ground. So Nintendo were well aware of it, well aware it was coming, well aware it was happening. They showed demos of their, their techniques and that they were using for their version of the Powerballs and how it was going to work and whatnot, and early mechanics of how the pals were going to fight alongside you. So Nintendo were perfectly aware of this, and they waited right up until it was well and truly released and everyone was all over it before they pounced.
Basically, they waited till Pocket Pair had money, and then they decided they were worth suing. And what irritates the crap out of me is you had the Nintoddlers going, look, sue them, Daddy Nintendo, sue them. And it was mainly because the Nintoddlers were incredibly jealous that Palworld was a better game than they had got in the last few releases. Right? And then it infuriates me that they then go, Pocket Pair then releases. I think that we just had a Pokemon release from Pocket Pair, and again, it was the same buggy, low low effort crap. And then Nintoddler's just like, oh, we must have it. So
while in the same breath going, it's so broken, and all these things keep breaking it, and it's buggy, and why does everything look so wrong? But it was like, so why'd you buy it? But I gotta have it. I gotta complete my collection. I have to have every single thing.
So on to the next story, which is a bit of a similar vein. We had Xbox price increases. They claim it's in part due to the tariffs introduced by the US president. I'm not so convinced on that myself.
Which is provably false because there is no tariffs on services. Right.
But looking forward, these prices, I mean, I'm literally shocked by some of them, especially the Xbox Series X. I mean, I'm at a loss for words. It makes me glad that I don't play Xbox anymore. And I love this first comment here. There's never been a stronger argument for PC gaming, especially if you already have a beefy rig. And I'm like, yeah, he's absolutely right. But yeah, I know times are hard, but Jesus Christ, guys, come on.
Yeah, again, there's so many companies that are just using this stuff as an excuse to raise price. They were going to raise prices anyway. This is the excuse because they can turn around and go, oh no, it's tariffs. It's and most people aren't going to question that. So, and I'm like, the only pain in the butt with building a PC at the moment is graphics cards because of the AI stuff, right? Because the price of graphics cards has been both hammered by the AI stuff and the crypto stuff because you need graphics cards for both of those. But for the most part, it's like, just build a PC.
Yeah, because it's also pointed out here by the one and only Grums that now, like Nintendo, Xbox are doing $80 games. Thanks for that. But again, I'm thankful that I'm not playing on that platform anymore. But obviously, we haven't talked about PlayStation because of what they did with the new PS5 Pro, whatever you want to bloody call it. But what made me chuckle the most this year was that games like Gears of War Reloaded, which of course was a crown individual of the Microsoft crown, is now coming to PlayStation.
Of course it is. There's no such thing as exclusives anymore.
Yeah, I call that PlayStation that they pulled the whole, here's a different slimmer or whatever else, and we've literally cut important pieces out of it. PlayStation, a grab for more money because idiots will buy it because they're Sony simps. Yeah. Just like Nintendo simps.
Yeah. But this one just made me chuckle because obviously there's no such thing as console exclusives anymore, is there?
Nope.
I'm just curious how much they're charging for it. I mean, does it come up here? Let's have a look.
It'll be $80 odd.
No.
40, $80. $80 US. Yeah, it's about right.
Yeah. I find that highly amusing. Again, as someone that played the hell out of this on the original Xbox 360 when it came out. But again, I suppose it's a sign of the times, isn't it? Where you have to branch out to make money, and such thing isn't a luxury for these people now, is it?
Because idiots will keep buying it.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what they're relying on.
So, on to one of the more amusing I can't get the words out. Controversial stories, if you will. was regarding the game Marathon, which is upcoming, and it was noticed, especially by the artists
They stole all
themselves,
their art. Yeah,
that their art was being used in the game without their knowledge.
And it wasn't even a case of little bits in here and there. It's like, no, they stole her stuff wholesale.
Yes, they did. Peter, I know you've been following this a lot closer than I have. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it's a case of, like I said, the artist initially noticed those little bits that she's pointing out there of logo-y type stuff that's literally rip off of her own work and posters and from her own portfolio, and she's since gone through and started digging. They've ripped off her art wholesale in so much stuff, they're literally going to have to gut the game. They cannot release the game as it stands because they've ripped off, like the art director has ripped off so much of her work, they cannot sell the game legally.
That's why they have to actually pay the original artist.
Even if they pay her, even if they pay her, she can still sue them for the fact that they've gone through and stolen pretty much her entire art and her entire art aesthetic wholesale.
Oh, this is just delicious.
And the latest news on that was the art director himself has been summarily fired. A couple of the art people, like people just below him, have apparently looking to be fired, and they may gut the entire art department because this is it's systemic through the entirety of the game as far as like the character designs and vehicle designs. They can't sell the game. They may have to gut it down to the bone to start again.
Yep. So that game, and the thing is, the company behind it is like, no, that's gonna kill it, because it's like that's gonna at least double the budget. Double. It's like, no, that's just gonna kill it. They'll just from a business point of view, they're just gonna look at it and just go, well, shit. We're gonna have to, because again, with games, art is most of the work in terms of labor and everything. So. Yeah, you're now having to go from scratch. It's now, it's going to take you a few years to sort of sort all that out, rada. Or they'll do the scummy thing and try and do, pre-generated AI stuff. I can see them trying that to try and save it. But yeah, this
is systemic through. Like, art is the biggest labor at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Hence why it's a case of you're now towards release point. This has been in development, what we'll say 5-6 years. So you've been this has been definitely happening since pretty much early days of them settling on the style aesthetics and beginning finalizing of all the art assets and that they're going to then turn into the 3D models and assets.
Yeah. But it's not the first time Bungie have done something like this, am I right?
Well, this has been about like the 6th, 7th time.
What were the other ones?
The other ones had been small things that had been involved with like promo art and that.
Yeah.
But this is just on a complete another level that they just ripped this artist off wholesale, all her stuff.
So what you're saying is there were indications that they were doing this anyway. That's the thing. That's a failure on Bungie's management, right?
Oh yeah.
They've seen that if they'd been tagged for being art thieves before, Bungie should have Bungie management should have stepped in and said, no, that is verboten. Do not do it. And looks like they should have cleaned house earlier, but they let the rot set in, and this is the logical result.
Yep. Because I'll freely admit, it's like I've seen the examples of where other stuff, and it's a case of it was paint overs, or pretty much case of you just ripped off that artist one for one. You've just repainted it, but it's still pretty much what they did originally, with just a little bit of the lick of paint a bit different on it. But it was still stealing. That was case of, but that. In comparison to this was tiny things that the artists themselves pointed out, and those times Bungie did turn around, apologize to them, and actually paid them.
Only after they got caught.
Of course. But with this, it's a case of, no, this isn't a little piece here and a piece there, or one piece, like one singular piece of art from the artist that they've sort of ripped off. This is like I said, this is this entire artist's portfolio they've ripped off.
Yeah, it's. Main reason I asked you primarily because not only you followed this more than I have, but you've also had your own art stolen, haven't you?
Of course.
And that's got to be a very personal thing for an artist to see their work. Something go, yo, what the hell?
it can be like I was like mildly miffed, but it's like it's one thing for one little thing, but it's another to have your entire like her have your entire portfolio ripped off wholesale, and everything is perfectly recognizable because they didn't even alter anything. They've literally gone through her portfolio, gotten the high quality, like high res stuff of her things, and just slapped it in there.
Mm-hmm. I'll be interested to see how that progresses.
Oh, no, they're to the point. It's a case of she's found so much at this point. It's going to lawsuit, and it's like, no, they can't use anything because she can just point left, right, and center and go, "That's mine. That's mine. That's mine. That is literally from this piece of artwork. That is literally from that piece of artwork." Like whole 9 yards. So every single aesthetic for, like I said, the character models, the vehicle models, the environments, like some of the buildings and whatnot that have all those tags on it. Like she even just as a joke in one of her pieces put in the that Lost meme.
Yeah.
And that was in there wholesale. To show how they were just grabbing her stuff and just copying it exactly, not even redrawing it, not even painting over it, but just grabbing it and just slapping it in exactly as is.
So on to the final story before we cover the gaming releases this year. And I'm going to approach this one humorously for reasons which will become clear soon. Polygon was sold to a new owner, and multiple staff were let go in this process. Now, Polygon was seen as a pillar of the gaming journalism community, as I'm sure. I couldn't even finish that joke.
You're funny.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Now, from a personal note, I have been through job losses recently, and normally I would not cheer this sort of thing on or celebrate it. But in this particular instance, I'm going to make an exception because some of the stuff that I saw from this website was quite frankly vile. And the funny thing is, the quote here is from former editor-in-chief Chris Plant. Now, for those who don't remember, he wrote the article going after Dr. Matthew Taylor when he wore the Sci-Fi Babes shirt, which was made for him by his friend after he landed a probe on a comet, I think it was.
Yep, that's it.
And
yeah, it was.
What no one reported, but the shirt was made for him by his friend, who was a woman, and she was disgusted by what was done to him. There's other stuff I could mention, but that's the one that I remember the most. Ironically, Plant wrote about this on Blue Sky. I hope it's good over there, guys.
It's not. He's getting more abuse over there than anything else. Blue Sky is just a hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah. So I really am not going to mourn this.
No one is.
No.
It's not dead enough. The domain still exists, therefore it's not dead. And this is the thing. These sites are just being, kicked around and sort of handed up and sold off between various, media aggregators, etc. And just like, no, just destroy that. Just take the site down and just park the domain, because that domain, that brand, as much as I hate the term, is utterly, useless and toxified at this point.
Yeah. So I will not mourn its passing. One less to worry about, because I can't stand a lot of these gaming websites. I really cannot. So adios is all I'm going to say to that, because, like I said, I will not miss it.
Good riddance. Rest in peace.
All right. So to cover some of the game releases this year, we can't talk about them all, obviously, because they'll all be here forever. But it's appropriate, given that we talked about it last time, that we start, of course, with Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, mainstream critics fell over themselves to praise the game, using such gems as memorable characters, peaceful exploration, and fantastic story. While those who let me finish. While others did note too many playable characters, a messy story, and thin content. Ubisoft claimed the game had 3 million players within a week, and Steam reported that almost a 65,000 player count in the week after launch. Since then, everything's gone quiet in this game, and nobody talks about it. Not a single person. And what I have learned about it in the brief things I heard was that the main character here you see bashing somebody in. He's the tank option you have to play, but yet he can't do the stealth stuff or climb towers, as I'm told. You have to switch to the other character to do that. Yeah, it was all fuss and very little to talk about afterwards, and it's just basically been forgotten.
Oh, I have some Schadenfreude. I'm looking at the Steam stats right now.
Okay.
Okay, so 64,000 players at peak 3 months ago.
Where do you find the Steam stats? I'd like to look this up.
SteamDB.info.
Okay, I'll worry about that
then. But yeah, I'm literally looking at it right now. So as of 6:31 a.m. Australian time, 24-hour peak. So the last 24 hours, 3,000 players. Current players now, 2,000. And I am suspicious of those 2,000. I reckon that Ubisoft's just got a bunch of bots running just to show that somebody's playing it. Yeah. But yeah, that's no. Wah 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 wah.
And then, of course, the digital deluxe edition here for an additional whatever it is £15. Well, I mean, whoopee do.
Well, it's the game that effectively killed Ubisoft. But the thing is, Ubisoft, from a business point of view, did a very dodgy thing. It's not exactly illegal, but it's dodgy. Mm-hmm. So what Ubisoft did was create a new company, which was basically half owned by Tencent.
Yeah.
And then transfer all the company assets from the old company to the new. In corporate terms, this is called phoenixing. So what Ubisoft is essentially doing is preparing, I'm just going to call it old Ubisoft and new Ubisoft for clarity's sake. So what they're doing is they're pillaging all the useful assets out of old Ubisoft, moving it into new Ubisoft. So then when bankruptcy comes for old Ubisoft, there is nothing for the for the bankruptcy thing to the court to grab. Mm-hmm. They can just essentially kill off old Ubisoft and seamlessly move to new Ubisoft without, any interruption.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who's working for old Ubisoft, I'd bail now because you are about to be screwed, because this is generally what they do when they know a bankruptcy is coming, and then things like employee entitlements, etc., get stuck with the old company and they become part of the bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I lived through this in the 80s with Australia, with the Australian we had to have. This was a very, very, very sneaky way for companies to get out of paying entitlements, etc., to employees, because then what happens as soon as bankruptcy is declared for the old Ubisoft, all those employee entitlements, so pensions and because it's French, don't forget, etc., all just become a creditor as part of the bankruptcy. So if you're lucky, you get maybe 5 cents on the dollar.
Yeah. The reviews are certainly interesting. I like this one here. Laughably bad story, but the game and world are very fun and really pretty. Okay, whatever.
I've loved the latest trick now with these companies is once upon a time, they'd be crowing about, oh, look how many sales we've had. Look at all the money we've made. Mm-hmm. Now it's like, look how many players we have. And how many of those got it through like the Xbox store?
I'm glad you mentioned that because
a lot of people got it for free as part of when they bought a new graphics card.
That too.
There was a whole heap of giveaways that came with the graphics card, and a lot of people just like, what the hell's this? I'm like, they had a poke at it. They likely registered the free, registered in Steam or whatever so they could get the game, but they're not actually said, as we're seeing for the stats, they're not actually playing it.
All right, so
what was the one previous that tried that as well? Dragon Age tried it too. So people's like, okay, I got my new graphics card, or I've got this random peripheral one. It's like, what's this game I'm being given as a freebie? What's this? And people actively getting on Steam and going, yeah, I got this for free. Wouldn't recommend.
Yeah,
I got this. I got this for free, and I still want to refund. It's that bad.
It. There was one other one as well that did it. I can't remember which one. It's another one that ended up being a massive bomb, but it's like, but that's what I mean by the whole.
Might be Redfall.
They're crowing now about player numbers and like, when you're giving away so many copies for free and through the likes of the Xbox store as like freebies, that's not a good indicator of if your game is successful, because once upon a time, the thing to crow about was the whole, look at how many people have purchased a copy.
Yeah.
It's like that's an actual set sale. That's actual money.
Yeah. All right. So on to the next one, and it's a smaller release. Split Fiction. Made by a team of about 80 people. I've read. The game has sold over 4 million units and received universal critical acclaim.
And there are currently more people playing it than Assassin's Creed Shadow. So again, looking at the Steam stats, there's actually 6,000 people playing it right now, which is, it had 250,000 people, well, 259,000 people at peak. Average 20, it's averaging in last 24 hours, 20,000 people were playing it, 6,000 playing it right now. And it's kind of, to be fair, time zone wise, it's about dead time at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's said for a small indie studio, said it's a very well received game, and said the reviews are over 95% positive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good on them.
Yeah. I want to see more of this.
And you will.
Good luck to them. All right. So the next one, this is going to be a good laugh because I've literally seen stuff on this all week, and it is of course Mind's Eye. Yeah, a game that was released in such a bad state that PlayStation offered refunds on it. Which PlayStation, for those who don't know the PlayStation Marketplace, they will not do unless in extreme circumstances, to which we are.
They'll do it if they're basically legally forced to, because you can thank Australia for this, because PlayStation and have been slapped around by the ACCC, the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, for this sort of stuff. Basically, ACCC is like, no, this product is non-functional. You must refund. Yeah. Otherwise, have a chat with the government lawyers. So what has happened with games like this, when games are released like this and it's get to the point where it's that bad, they're legally forced to actually offer refunds.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, there were multiple bugs and glitches reported on this game on its release. There was one that I saw with the ragdoll physics of getting hit by a car were absolutely fucking hilarious.
But spaghettifying the model.
Yeah, but I found a video which one guy has posted on his Twitter, and I'm going to play it for you now, just so you can see what happens. Just pay attention to the fleeing whoever it is.
Yeah, but the fact that these, and this is a failure on the publisher's part. The fact that these get released in this state, right? The thing is, it's like they're not, we're not going to bother fixing the bugs. We'll fix them on release. Blah 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 blah. Right? Yeah, so no, this is entirely the publisher making the decision. Yeah.
You notice other things? The truck, like the trailer of the truck, is actually wedged into a van. That van was wedged into that white car. Hence why they're now freaking out and flipping around.
Yeah. There's just a random
cutting into each other.
But the thing is, people need to understand this is not an oopsie whoopsie, right? It's a choice by the developer to say we're going to release it in this state. Well, the publisher, right? They've just said, sod it. This is as good as we're going to get. We're going to release it in this state to try and get some money so we can, maybe fix it up with a patch.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not even going to get that.
No. But I wanted to find some of the other videos, but I just couldn't before starting this. But that one's one that tickled me the most. On seeing
there's other ones. That one that people showed of the whole him trying to drive up to someone and hitting the NPC and they spaghettified. That was meant to be someone who's like some sort of quest giver or like moving a quest on. That even if he carefully tried to pull up to a stop and even just bumped them, they get spaghettified like that.
Yeah.
Because the handling of the vehicles is so bad. And I've also seen one of people point out, it's like, here's a video from I think it was GTA 2 of a character taking a shot at a car. The NPC driving it immediately jumps out and shoots back. And then tries to run away.
Yeah.
They showed in that game the same thing. It's just like, guy runs up, shoots an NPC in car. NPC in car gets out, fires randomly, spins around, then starts randomly running all over, firing at other NPCs.
But yeah, and the funny part is also, I'm just looking at this. Let's say one of the game's creators claimed that all negative press was coming from individuals paid to do so.
Excuse me while I make
Yeah.
dismissive wanking noises.
Yeah.
No one's getting so. Oh, again, if negative press was, if people were getting paid for this, holy hell, there would be an industry. I'm like, yeah, but again, like, really, who's paying them?
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's like, oh, well, yeah, who's gonna blow money on, you know, dunking on your amateur ass hour? Really? Get banned.
Yeah. So I didn't buy that for 1 minute. But it's always amusing when you see this stuff.
I'll show you how bad it is. The few people I watch for reviewing games have basically gone, I bought it, I maybe lasted about 15, 20 minutes, and then I refunded it, so that's all I can say. It's like, it was that bad, and like, I can't, even from doing my quote-unquote job as a reviewer, I can't tolerate it enough to even last, like, because, like, especially for Steam, it's a 2-hour limit to return, and there's people going, I don't even last an hour before I'm basically quitting out and returning it, because it is that fundamentally broken and bad. It is not worth my time or my waste of my money to even, you know, play enough of it to review beyond. I spent an hour in it, so you don't have to. Don't bother.
All right, so on to the next one. Bit of a mixed reception to this. It's, of course, Doom: The Dark Ages. I was thinking about this at first, but then sort of the criticisms and things pointed out about it came out, seen by many as the weakest link in the trilogy because of its story. The glory kills are missing, a less impactful score, and this was a game that was very criticized for its price, because, as you see, for the premium edition, it's £100. And that is in part because it has a campaign add-on, which tells me that's cut content added on, in my opinion. It was reported again that the game has reached 3 million players in its first week, but that is in part thanks to it being on the Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, I just looked it up in Australian. For the game itself, base.
Yeah.
$120 dues.
Yeah.
For the premium, $170 dues.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a big no for me.
Yeah.
That's an extreme no.
But yeah, everyone's basic. I said I've seen other reviewers that I trust who've just looked going, yeah, they were trying to be charitable, but they're like, yeah, it's a Doom game, but you said it's sort of the most mid of the
Yeah. One guy I watched his review of, he's basically gone, he enjoyed it for what it is. He said, but this is not really what he'd call a Doom game. He's just like, if you told me this was a new Hexen game, I would have gone, yeah, this is definitely Hexen. And Hexen was back in the day, it started as a Doom clone, then became its own thing by, I think, the second or third, like by the second game, it was its own thing, distinct thing. But it was like similar, like Hell and whatnot, but it has its own fan base still, even though there hasn't been a Hexen game in a long while. And he's basically gone, looking back at Hexen and comparing it, it's just like, this would have, like, you told me this was a new Hexen game, I would have been, yeah, this is definitely Hexen. This is not really Doom. And I've grown with all those people.
Yeah, it just kind of smacks of they didn't know what to do. Like, after Doom Eternal, they just didn't know what to do with the franchise, right?
Yeah.
Well, again, so they've gone, oh, well, we can do a prequel. And I'm like, it just kind of smacks a low effort, right? That, and the problem is that the management that screwed up their relationship with Mick Gordon, which is why the soundtrack for this one is so mid. Again, I'm sure the guy did it, team that did it, did an admirable try, but I'm sorry, you're not Mick Gordon. And the guy responsible for that screw up of ruining the relationship with Mick Gordon actually got promoted. So got kicked upstairs. So
happens.
I would have, again, if I was around, I would have sacked him and trebucheted him out of the building, and then called up Mick Gordon, going, right, the people responsible have been sacked. Let's try and Mick, are you willing to reset the relationship? And can we work out some terms and conditions that we're both happy with, so this never happens again, right?
To be fair,
because
I have
Mick
heard,
Gordon, he made the last 2 days he made the last 2 Doom games what they were with his soundtrack.
Yeah, the soundtrack's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And I'll give it to the props. It's like when I was listening that particular one, he was basically the reviewer was making the comparison to Hexen. He did have moments where he just let some of the soundtrack play.
Yeah.
To show the different variants of different areas and whatnot, but they tried. But it's like, it's just like you tried, but no biscuit.
Yeah.
It was just lacking.
Yeah, to me, again, this smacks of just low effort. Where they're going, okay, well, let's deal with an existing brand. Hey, we're gonna make a Doom game, but just like it just I said it's just flat. It's just average. Again, it's and that's the last thing you want to describe a Doom game as. It's just average.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it is.
It also then makes me think that, especially with this comparison to the Hexen games, and like, was this even at its base meant to even be a Doom game to begin with? But it was something, once again, that someone's gone, well, I've got this idea I want to make, but I can't get it made, so I'm going to glom onto something that already exists and basically wear it as a skin suit to get my idea and my story out there, because it really doesn't, like, again, watching someone else's thing of the whole story of what it's meant to be, it even as a prequel, sort of middle between, like, I think it was meant to be between Doom 3 and the Doom 2016. It then doesn't fit.
No.
A lot of things that are inconsistent in a ways that, in case you've got no excuse for inconsistencies, because it's not like the Doom story is all that complicated. And you've tried to make something out of something and gone in a direction that just doesn't fit a Doom game.
Yeah, and it's like you're introducing Cthulhu type guys. I'm like, I want to be able to punch Cthulhu in the face. If you're doing a Doom game, and again, including the Cthulhu crowd, I'm like, but the whole point of Cthulhu is it's like a massive cosmic horror that is undefeatable. That's the whole thing with cosmic horror.
And you turn it into something that the Hell Prince can just usurp. No, it's meant to be a cosmic entity on a levels that cannot be comprehended, because if you ever did, you would literally blink out of existence because it become aware of you.
Or your head just explodes because you go mad. But the point is like, no, the thing is, they had the setup. Like, again, if you listen to them, the monologues from the original Doom game of just them trying to contain the Doomslayer. Like, if you wanted to do a prequel, you could have just done that, right? Hey, he's literally taking on a Titan on his own. Like the one, if you played the 2016 Doom, hey, that big dead body of a Titan that, more or less just go in its rotting mouth. Yeah, you killed that back in the day, right? You could have had the prequel of the whole, them dropping the bloody obsidian temple on him.
Yeah.
And trapping him. So you could have done that. There's your prequel. Right, and the entire army of hell trying to contain the Doomslayer. Right, and that would have fit perfectly. Instead, they've done this thing. I'm like,
Yeah, and then they could have ended it with the whole thing of they finally managed to, at the very last second, contain him in that sarcophagus.
Yeah,
and that's when you get Doom 2016, where he's being woken up from said sarcophagus.
Right, and again, if you wanted to advance the story, you could have said, you could have had the makers and the rest of it kind of was, working with Hell a bit just to say, okay, we'll do a deal. We want our energy. You want Doom Guy contained. Fine, we'll, set him up. Make sure he's down there. You can drop a temple on him.
All right, so on to the next one. This one was a interesting release. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Now, this was obviously a follow-up to the crowdfunded, very popular original game. But this one courted some controversy after being criticised for having same-sex relationships, despite arguments they didn't exist at that time, and having a black character, despite the lead dev's previous comments about historical accuracy in the country it's based in. The PR manager, whose name I'm not going to try pronouncing, stated he was, and I quote, fed up being caught in a culture war, and that the studio's goal was to create, and I quote, a rich, historically accurate experience. Yeah, I think basically they were trying to play both sides there. I think that they were getting, because their publisher is Deep Silver,
Deep Silver has a history of doing woke crap. Deep Silver was the ones behind that absolute abortion of a Saints Row game.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I think that the Warhorse Studios was caught between a rock and a hard place, right? And the thing is, the fact that we don't want to get into the culture war, yet you did stuff that was very blatantly, really not a good fit for the period. Right. Again, that's the problem. If you want to be historically accurate and you start putting in, diversity stuff, it sticks out like dog's balls and people notice it and they go, oh, we see what you're doing. Right. It doesn't hold a candle to what happens in the UK where it's like, oh, well, apparently, you've had, kings and full on characters, historical characters, documented characters in the UK stuff with BBC replaced with like various other skin colors. It's like, but it's the thing. People are so sensitive to this now and they know that they're so tired of it. They know what to look for. Oh, you're doing a historical setting. Oh, you are sticking in people who are, maybe 1 in 100,000 have been made, in there. Like, it's the same thing with the Assassin's Creed thing when they went, oh, no, there was a black samurai. And then people actually went through the history of it and went, actually, no, this is now a major academic scandal because so much of this shit is a woozle. It's just circular referencing that it doesn't actually exist and it all traces back to one person.
And I will give them one thing on the black guy in it. He at least, like, culturally is correct from where he's meant to be from and representing. But the reason people got up, like, people settled on him to a point with that. But the reason people still got uppity about him is because he's a basically know-it-all, mouthy twat.
Yeah, there you go. He's the diversity Mary Sue. I am the diverse character here to lecture everyone else.
Yeah, he's like, okay, yeah, he's correct for the time period for the where he's meant to be from, being being a dark-skinned man. But he's a mouthy, know-it-all twat. So people's like, yeah, we could have accepted him if he wasn't like that. Like, we could have accepted that, yes, he's a representative and a trader and whatnot from that particular country and those particular people. And also the gay thing is just like, gay did exist, but you kept it to very private quarters and kept very quiet about it because depending on your standing, if others found out, well, have fun being dragged out with your buddy and basically horribly beaten and killed in public, especially if you're someone
the only people who got away with being gay was usually royalty. And even if you look at European history, the whole gay thing was kept under the hat because it would, even if you were royalty, it wouldn't directly get you killed, lynched in the street, but poisonings would happen, people would fall out of windows, you would be replaced. And there's been several episodes of that throughout European history where they had either a prince or a king who was gay, especially in medieval times, and stuff happened. Oh dear, they seem to have fallen off their horse and broken their neck on a clear sunny day. There was a hunting accident. I'm trying to remember the name of one of the Scottish ones that was replaced. Again, it was kind of that thing. It was that's right, Longshanks. His son, if you've seen Braveheart, you see Longshanks throwing his son's lover out of a window. But yeah, when Longshanks died and his son took over, his son got deposed because he was ineffectual and effeminate and very, very gay, and everyone went, no, we're not having this. So he more or less got replaced.
And you were respected even back then. Yeah. Like, if you're of anyone of nobility, if you're gay or lesbian, they're like, we don't care. You're marrying a man or a woman, and you are going to produce heirs.
No, it's like, no, you can quietly have your gay lover on the side, but you're going to marry a woman and you're going to produce heirs, right?
And if you refuse, then we've got problems.
Yeah, and again, even if we're looking at more modern but still old history, you had Frederick the Great. I remember having a discussion with one of my friends. He's like, why do people keep saying Frederick the Great was gay? And I'm like, no, probably because all the men he had sex with.
There was another monarch, and his people go, oh no, they were just his particular guard that he liked. He's like, yes, and he called them his tall men.
Yeah.
And his wife really outed him. It's just like, yeah, he spends more time with his tall men than he ever does.
He
in
spends
my
more
bed,
time
let alone my
buggering the help
vicinity.
than with his wife. Yeah.
And he ended up getting bumped off for it because enough of the nobles got tired of the fact that he was constantly spending too much time grooming and wasting money on his tall men. That he basically got oopsie doopsie. King seems to have had a little fucky wucky and he's dead.
Right. So to the next one, I don't think we've ever talked about a game that was in early access before. When I learned about this, thought, yeah, we've got to talk about this. And that is Schedule 1, or Walter White Simulator, depending on your view. But from small-time dope pusher to kingpin, become a drug dealer. It sounds like an excellent game to me.
And it's made by one person in Australia, and his whole thing was like, because I wanted to.
Yeah. And the reviews that I've seen about it, especially from people like Worth the Buy, have said it's a great laugh.
And it's why it works, because it doesn't take itself seriously.
No.
It's fun. And you can, depending on once you get deep enough into the game, depending on what kind of little funds you're mixing up, you can have your entire town walking around as basically green-skinned cyclopses because of the side effects of the drugs that have been made.
But again, look at this price. That is amazing. I love seeing stuff like that because I don't know if it was such a price would exist on console games, but this.
It's also because he never made this with intent to make it profit.
Yeah,
he just made it for the fun of it, put it out there for cheap to see if anyone was interested in playing it, and it's just by word of mouth. He never advertised it aside from saying, "Hey, this is my first try at a game. Here it is if you want to go and let me know what you think of it." And it's just gone gangbusters from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I've seen of it, I thought, man, I'd play this if I gamed on PC, and it's kind of pushing me more into the frame that I'm definitely going to get a Steam Deck. Absolutely, because games like this I will love.
And it's silly fun. It's just like, it's not serious, and your mode of transport that you upgrade is literally a skateboard, and you can get to the point where you can have a golden skateboard.
Yeah.
That on.
But I love seeing games like this come out because, again, you've got the bigger releases which aren't making as big a thud as they used to, but then you've got everyone talking about a little game like this.
And I've watched
because it's fun.
Exactly.
It's fun. It's not preachy. It doesn't take itself seriously. And again, this is a problem a lot of the AAA stuff has, is because it had the whole woke and we have to do social commentary, blah blah. No one wants that. No one ever wanted that. So it's just like, oh god, it's another game that's bashing us over the head with a social message. Pass.
Yeah.
People just said, and especially in current day and age, people just want to be entertained.
Yeah.
And I've watched someone else, like another Australian play it, Remy, on YouTube, and him just falling into hysterical cackling when he's basically almost gotten caught by the police, and his whole, I gotta hide, I win, oh shit, they found me, and just laughing his head off as he's scrambling to get out of a bin he was hiding in and take off with the cops still chasing him, and he's just nearly choking. He was laughing so hysterically. Just because of how much fun he was having and how silly it all was.
And then, on the other side of the coin, you have this, The Precinct, made, as I'm told, a love letter to the old school police movies, which I miss so much, and I wish we had more of this. Again, get rid of that. Small game, £25. I don't know what that is in Australian.
About 50.
Yeah, I love seeing shit like this appear because it's kind of like the top-down angle game. And one of the videos I watched, it was by the YouTuber Worth the Buy, and he said he was laughing so hard at some parts of it that he couldn't concentrate because of how much fun he was having.
Okay. In Dollary Doos, it's about $44.
Okay. But despite being repetitive, as some people have criticised, which I think wouldn't bother me looking at this, the game offers a dynamic crime system that offers hours of fun. So I hate to use the meme sort of phrase here, but I see this as a win.
It is. And again, this is the thing is you got the AAA dinosaur sort of stomping around, and now you've got the smaller mammals who are actually taking over because AAA is just bloated out and they're just doing such samey stuff.
Yeah, we'll cover that at the end, but yeah, you're right. I mean, this is great. I love seeing stuff like this.
Yeah, and I'd class like for going on scale of like what A is and what AA is and AAA. I'd class like Schedule 1 as an A because it's a single dev, very cheap game. And I'd class the Precinct as getting into the AA territory because you've got a few people working on it, and it's a slightly higher price tag. But even then, it's a very reasonable price tag for what you're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so on to the next one, and Peter, you're going to take the lead on this one, I think. Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon. Based on the board game of the same name, which was a major Kickstarter success. This game was developed primarily by a Polish developer. Now, I'm told it was released with some technical issues. I don't know if you've come across any of these. But
I'm about 3/4 of the way into Act 1 and I haven't had any issues yet.
Sweet. But this has gone on to be insanely popular. I mean, talk us through your experiences of this one.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. Like, yes, it's very well voice acted. Yeah, some like when it comes to like when you're talking to NPCs, it's like there's not much in the way of facial animation on them, but their voice acting overtakes that, so you don't notice. And the graphics are on a level that I'd say it's Skyrim but above. So that means it'll work on a lot of systems without having any sort of chugging. Because it's balanced very well, and it looks amazing, plays very well, and it very much case of from the start you are basically dropped into it and say off you go.
Yeah.
Even the tutorial zone, it's literally set up in a way that's case of we'll give you little prompts to say what things do is what in your keyboard and your mouse or your controller, but from there it's a case of you meet the first NPC who's basically coming to get you out of it, like a jail situation you got yourself into, and their whole thing is a case of, okay, I'll meet you outside. Toodles. And they vaguely say, go to the left, but you can go to the right. You can toddle around, do whatever you want to eventually get where they're going to meet up with you again. And then the story starts advancing from there. But you can get tidbits of why you're there and what's going on before that. Just by scuttling about, poking everything you can get your little grubby hands on, reading everything you get your hands on. And it's got plenty of environmental storytelling as well that you can just wander through and understand what's going on. And once you're out past the, I guess you call the tutorial dungeon.
Yeah.
But once again, just goes, okay, here's the world, off you go.
I love the fact also, looking at the Steam page, that a demo is available. Now, I don't recall the last time I saw a decent major game come with a demo. I mean, I actually looked it up on the PlayStation after you told me about it. The first demo that I was offered was actually that of the Star Wars game that Ubisoft did. And I thought, yeah, no thanks. And then, sure enough, one had become available. I haven't played it yet, but it's just so nice watching this get the reception that it's getting.
Yeah, and the demo is what sold me, because the demo is pretty much the entire tutorial right up until you basically start on towards the main story, the main island, and get going proper. And the tutorial is exactly the same. Like that demo is exactly the same as what you get in the game once you're actually just dumped in it and left to run around.
Yeah.
So it gives you a very good idea of what the game's going to be like.
Yeah. So we'll finish on the last game to talk about. And of course, it is Expedition 33. Now, the creation of this game, I absolutely love the story behind it. Project started by a former Ubisoft employee, presumably because he was bored of what this company were making. He recruited help from Reddit, and the game was initially funded by Kepler Interactive. Team started at around 30 people, another 12 coming from Ubisoft. And the composer was a guy they found on SoundCloud. And this was his first major score.
And also, part of the dev team were juniors.
Yeah.
This was learning, but they worked on a basis of the seniors from the likes of Ubisoft, and that actually did the effort and time and taught the juniors the best ways of approaching things so they could get the game rolling
Yeah.
and be as efficient as possible and remove a lot of the bloat that a lot of these young people now get stuck with by working for the likes of EA and Ubisoft and that fill them with all these bloated means of doing it, like building code, building game, modeling and whatnot.
Yeah.
That slows production down so much and what causes the staff bloat.
Yeah.
Whereas they took, like, these guys are older school. They're basically going to know, we're going to teach you the proper ways of doing all this stuff. Also, leave it open for you to bring in your own ideas and everything.
Yeah.
What you're learning and what you're learning outside to, like, all gel together and get the process going as seamlessly as possible, which is the problem with AAAs now, that everyone's stuck in their own little hole. No one communicates anymore.
Yeah. And of course, the game apparently is very well written and very well voice acted, boasting the talents of course, Charlie Cox, old Daredevil himself. The game sold over 3.3 million units, and as it's a French company, was even celebrated by Emmanuel Macron and the mayor of Montpellier, who said,
sorry, just Macron. I've just got a joke there, but
yeah. Well, one moment, please. And the mayor said the game will be a reference in the international history of video games. The game's soundtrack it even reached the top position on Billboard's classical music and classical crossover music during the first week of May this year. Go on then. What's this joke?
Oh, I said I'm amazed that Macron's mummy wife let him actually say anything. Actually let him play it. She's not beating him up.
But of course, a crop of the usual suspects appeared on social media and accused the company of being racist because they didn't have any black people in their company. These are quotes, by the way, and that I quote: "The only black character died within the first 10 minutes of the game." Now, the company released a statement I'm going to read here for the listening audience. We've noticed discussions online concerning us and our values, so we want to make this absolutely clear. Expedition 33 was created with respect and tolerance by teams and partners from diverse backgrounds, cultures, and perspectives. Our game was crafted with love. Please don't weaponize it to spread hate, which is the politest fuck off I've ever heard in my life.
Yep.
And I love it.
And that's how you have to be these days. You have to basically very politely and sweetly tell them to basically go shove it in their rinsed out assholes. No one gives a fuck about what they have to say because they are no one and nobody in the grand scheme of things when it comes to what's success and what's not.
Yes. Now, the reason I ended with those last 4 releases was because, granted, they are small games from small companies, but with regards to reception from gamers, they are proven to be so much more popular than the more AAA releases, in part, I suppose, because of price, but also because of the love and care that's been put into making these things.
Well, the thing is, I will argue the price point. It's even if these games were a lot more expensive than they were, right? The gaming community will find the money if it's worth the experience. Like, again, if it's a good game, it doesn't, it's actually entertaining.
Yeah.
And it has replayability value. They'll find the money, right? I think it's just more a case of, we're getting games from people who aren't actively crapping on the community.
Yeah.
Right. And they aren't doing the preachy social message. Right.
And I'll give the props to that as well for the guys who've created Tainted Grail. And it's like, only interactions I've seen with them on Twitter is thanking people for playing the game when they're giving feedback, asking for feedback, and responding to feedback when people have gone, I liked this, but I didn't like that. And they're like, okay, so what was the problem so we can fix it? And they're not engaging in any drama bullshit. I've seen a couple of people try to start stuff and they've just not responded or just gone, thank you for buying the game. That's it.
Yeah. But also one thing I like seeing from a lot of these smaller companies, I'll highlight it here, is the supporters pack, which you can buy.
That little intro they got going there.
Yeah. Art book, soundtrack. What else we got?
And it is a very good soundtrack. I'll give them that.
Yeah. And of course, horse armor, because why not make that joke? I
Read
like
what they actually say about the horse armor.
Oh, has it got it for it?
If you go down, you'll read.
Digital art book.
Go read more.
Yeah, read more. Read more. The only horse
Yeah.
armor you'll ever need for your loyal steed. Yes. Right. This exclusive DLC features a single, meticulously crafted armor set that perfectly balances protection, aesthetics, and historical infamy. Much like its legendary predecessor from another universe, the singular piece of equine protection offers your horse the chance to look magnificent while providing questionable tactical advantage. Features one iconic set, yes, just one, shiny reflective surfaces that enemies can see from miles away, a conversation starter at every stable. Is it worth the price? That's for history to decide. But one thing's for certain, your horse will never look the same again. Woohoo. Oh God, I love that shit. But again, when I see
I will give them props as well. It's got a very distinct but very immersive soundtrack.
Yeah, and stuff like this, I will happily support because game soundtracks. I think a lot of them are very underrated. I mean, I was writing the other day, and I tried writing to the Doom 2016 soundtrack. And partway through, I had the urge to just put demons in the middle of the book for no apparent reason, just have them get fucking slaughtered for no apparent reason. I'm thinking, no way, I'm not writing that story. What the fuck?
Yeah, I've heard of people using
getting into my head.
Yeah.
I've heard people using it for their workouts to get themselves like actually get the whole blood pumping, going, and getting fixated into their sets and pushing that, like, make sure they're pushing to their line, or even people using it for their jogging and running routines as a motivator to keep moving.
But releases like these also, to me, are suggestion is the right word, but a prompt to people nowadays that the best way to play your games is not on a major console. It is on a PC or a Steam Deck. Because
the way where all the little good stuff is.
Yeah, because that's where the console's going. I fear it's going to price people out of buying them. I mean, we talked last year about the PS5 Pro and how much that was going to be with all the add-ons. I'm checking out of the whole console scene once my PS5 reaches the end of its lifespan. I'll keep it for a Blu-ray player, but I'm going to get a Steam Deck. I've had enough of this shit now.
Well, they already are, because they've gone from something that was, I guess you could say, more for kids and teens to and then for the family to now. It's like, even with the Switch 2, like, what parents are going to be able to afford that on an average salary for their kid if their kid's like they managed to already get them a Switch 1?
Yeah, and this is a problem.
Parents are going to be able to afford a Switch 2 when there's when it's not even worth it for the games.
Yeah, hang on, honey, though. They're not aiming at kids. They're aiming at adults and toddlers.
I know.
Yeah.
But also, the other thing that Steam Deck and Steam has over consoles is and even with also good old games, GOG. They have games that are we're talking early 2000s, maybe even older games, still available for purchase for $1.
Yeah.
That you can play whenever you want, and no one can take it away from you.
Yeah, because it has been noted that Nintendo in particular have hidden a lot of their games behind paywalls, a lot of the old ones. Except for people like me who've got them on a Raspberry Pi.
For example, it's just
careful, Justin. The Nintendo lawyers are always listening.
Yeah, and they can suck my dick.
Yeah, let's have a look.
But yeah, it's to me, it's showing that the better way to go to enjoy these things is definitely on the PCs, because I dare say to make a decent rig to play these games, you don't need to spend that much. In fact, I dare say it's probably much cheaper than a lot of the consoles.
Oh, and to make my point, it's I just remembered because I got something on GOG, I ended up getting offered Daggerfall, the Elder Scrolls 2 from 1996, and just looking on Steam, you can get it for free. A game from 1996. You can play through Steam or GOG for free. Where else are you going to get that on a console?
No, you're not.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to reiterate, we are not being paid by Steam in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
However, Gaben, if you wish to sponsor us, please contact us.
Yeah.
But like, you even get the original Fallout game, like the original Fallout 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure. Let's check how much that would be. I'm pretty sure it's slightly free as well. Because some
I
of the
think you can
ones
get the
that
entire
basically like
Interplay bundle for like $10, right? So, which is not just Fallout 1. So yeah, I said. But the point is, it's like, yeah, if Steam were actually to launch a console tomorrow, and again, there's still rumors that the Steam console's coming. Like, you've literally got a library of like hundreds of thousands of games.
Yeah.
Right on day one launch.
And it's also noticeable that going back a page, Steam Deck compatibility verified.
Yeah.
And let's see, to go back to Expedition 33, playable. What does this mean? Games launch. Oh yeah, the virtual keyboard and all that bollocks.
yeah, Fallout. The original Fallout's available.
Mm-hmm.
All the Fallout games, like every single one of them, is available.
Yeah. But yeah, I think personally the future is definitely leaning towards more of a PC-based game because it'll be more affordable.
Yeah, there's that as well. As you know, we continue. You know, every other generation continues having their money siphoned off by the boomers. They're going to become a lot more value focused in terms of I want to get the most bang and entertainment for my buck.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's just like, oh wait, there's games that I've never heard of that are really old that are not available on the console, and I can get it and try it on here for like really cheap.
Yeah.
And also, the way Steam works is a case of you can play for 2 hours, and if within that 2-hour framework you decide that the game's not for you, or there's problems with it or whatnot, you can request a refund and get every single cent just be paid back.
Yeah. All right. So we'll look forward to talking about the future releases at the end of the year. But for now, we'll call it a day there. Thanks to everyone that's taken the time to listen to us. Much appreciated. Thanks also to Peter and Wombat for joining us. We'll see you guys next week when we talk about the news in the world of comics so far, which is going to be interesting given what I've written already. But yeah, for now, take care, everyone. We'll see you next time. So bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.